Lavender doesn't usually fail all at once. It fades slowly. A few dull leaves here, a bloom that never quite opens there. And most gardeners assume it's the heat, the soil, or simply the plant getting older. But look closer at some of these struggling plants in midsummer, and the real cause is often already living on the stems, quietly feeding for weeks before anyone notices. A few of the most common lavender pests barely register as a problem until the damage is already visible, and reaching for a spray at that point can sometimes do more harm than good, especially for the bees working those same flowers. Before treating anything, it helps to know exactly what's causing it. There are 5 insects responsible for most lavender trouble in home gardens, and each one leaves its own kind of clue, if you know where to look for it. Not every insect on a lavender plant is actually a threat, and that's exactly where a lot of gardeners run into trouble. Reaching for a spray at the first sign of a bug sounds responsible, but most of the insects visiting lavender are either harmless or genuinely helpful. Ladybird larvae, hoverflies, tiny parasitic wasps. They move through a lavender bed constantly, usually hunting the very pests causing real damage. Treating every visitor as the enemy doesn't just waste effort. It can wipe out the natural predators that were already keeping the actual problem in check. That's why identification always comes before treatment. And the first pest on this list is one nearly every gardener has seen without realizing what they were looking at. Aphids are small, often under 2 millimeters, and they cluster so tightly together that a colony can look like a smudge of discoloration on the stem rather than dozens of individual insects. Pale green, sometimes almost translucent, they gather along new growth and on the underside of young leaves, in exactly the spots most people never think to check. A handful of aphids rarely does noticeable harm. But lavender grows fast in spring, and under the right conditions, an aphid colony can double in size within days. What begins as a few insects on one stem can spread across the entire plant before anything looks visibly wrong. And the damage itself doesn't always show up where you'd expect. Pest number 1 continued. Symptoms, biology, control. Aphids feed by piercing plant tissue and drawing out sap, which means the damage rarely looks like a bite mark or a hole. Instead, new growth starts to curl slightly inward. Stems look a little weaker than they should, and flower buds sometimes stall before fully opening. On their own, those signs are easy to blame on watering or weather. It's usually a second clue that gives the actual cause away. As aphids feed, they excrete a sugary residue called honeydew, and that residue often lands on the leaves just below the colony. Within a few days, a black, sooty film can start to develop on that residue, a fungus called sooty mold. It doesn't harm the plant directly, but its presence is one of the clearest signs that aphids have been active nearby, even if the insects themselves are hard to spot at first glance. Aphids are most active in spring and early summer, when new growth is soft and nitrogen-rich, exactly the kind of growth that makes feeding easiest for them. Established lavender in well-drained soil tend to grow slightly tougher tissue, which is one reason mature. Healthy plants often show fewer aphid problems than younger or overwatered ones. Most aphid populations don't require chemical treatment at all. A firm spray of water in the morning physically knocks colonies off the stem, and because lavender dries quickly in full sun, this rarely encourages fungal issues. Encouraging ladybirds and hoverflies into garden does the rest. A single ladybird larva can consume dozens of aphids a day. Insecticidal soap is only worth considering when a colony is heavy and predators haven't caught up yet, and even then, it should be applied in the evening, after pollinators have finished their daily activity on the flowers. Aphids are usually the easiest problem to catch early. The second pest on this list is far easier to miss, because most of its damage happens somewhere gardeners rarely think to look. Pest number 2, spittlebugs. If aphids hide by being small, this next pest hides by being obvious in a way that makes gardeners look right past it. Walk through a lavender bed in late spring, and it's common to spot small clusters of white foam sitting on the stems, almost like flecks of spit left behind by something. Most people assume it's residue from watering, or even something left by a passing animal, and keep walking. That foam is actually a shelter, built and lived in by an insect that spends part of its life completely hidden inside it. Spittlebugs, the immature nymph stage of an insect called a frog hopper, produce that foam themselves, using a mixture of air and a fluid secreted while feeding. Inside a protective bubble, the nymph feeds on plant sap, safely hidden from predators and from the sun. It's a strange survival strategy, but an effective one. Unless someone knows to look for it, that foam mass can sit on a lavender stem for weeks without ever being investigated. The damage itself is usually mild. A single nymph rarely causes serious harm, though a heavier infestation can lead to slightly stunted growth on the affected stems, since the insect is steadily drawing sap while it develops. Spittlebugs are most active from late spring into early summer, particularly after a run of damp weather, since moisture helps the foam hold together and keeps the nymph from drying out. Removing them is refreshingly simple. A firm spray of water breaks apart the foam and dislodges the nymph, and because the insect depends entirely on that shell to survive, it rarely returns to the same spot. No pesticide is typically necessary at all. This is really a case where a 5-minute inspection solves the entire problem. What makes spittlebugs worth mentioning isn't the damage they cause. It's what they reveal about a habit every lavender grower should build, because the next pest hides in a place most people check even less often than the stems. Pest number 3, spider mites. That place is the underside of the leaf, and if we're one of the most damaging lavender pests, spends nearly its entire life. Spider mites are barely visible to the naked eye, often less than half a millimeter long, and their coloring can range from pale yellow to a faint reddish tint depending on the species and season. Most gardeners never see the mite itself. What they notice instead is a change in the leaves, a dull, slightly speckled look that's easy to mistake for sun stress or the natural fading that comes with heat. That assumption is exactly why spider mite damage tends to go untreated far longer than it should. Turn a leaf over, and the real picture starts to emerge. Spider mites feed by puncturing individual plant cells and drawing out the contents, and each puncture leaves a tiny pail behind. Multiply that by hundreds of feeding sites, and the leaf surface takes on a fine, stippled texture, almost like it's been dusted. In more advanced infestations, a faint webbing can appear between stems, which is where the name comes from, though by that stage the damage is usually well established. Spider mites thrive in hot, dry conditions, which makes mid to late summer their most active period. And it's worth noting that dusty, drought-stressed plants are especially vulnerable, since dust on the leaf surface interferes with the natural defenses lavender relies on. This is one of the few cases where a plant environment plays a direct role in how severe an infestation becomes. Lavender kept properly watered during dry spells, with occasional light rinsing to knock dust off the foliage, tends to see far fewer problems. Because spider mites aren't insects at all, they're closely related to spiders. Many common insecticides have little effect on them. A strong jet of water on the underside of the leaves remains one of the most effective treatments, disrupting both the mites and the fine webbing that shelters them. For heavier infestations, insecticidal soap or horticultural oil applied directly to the leaf undersides works well, though timing matters. Applying it during the cooler part of the day protects beneficial insects still active on the flowers above. Spider mites reward patience and a habit of turning leaves over during routine checks. The next pest doesn't hide at all. If anything, it does the opposite, and that's part of what makes it so easy to underestimate. Pest number 4, four-line plant bugs. This next one doesn't bother hiding, because for most of its short, active life, it doesn't need to. The four-line plant bug is easy to spot when it's around, bright yellow-green, with 4 dark stripes running down its back, about the size of a small ladybird. It moves quickly across foliage, and unlike aphids or spider mites, there's rarely any question about whether it's actually there. What confuses gardeners isn't the insect itself. It's the damage it leaves behind, because that damage looks almost nothing like typical pest feeding. Four-line plant bugs feed by injecting a digestive enzyme into leaf tissue, then drawing out the broken-down contents. The result is small, sunken spots, usually dark brown or almost black, sometimes with a slightly translucent center, scattered across the leaf surface. At a glance, those spots resemble a fungal or bacterial disease far more than insect feeding, and it's genuinely common for gardeners to treat lavender for leaf spot when a plant bug was actually responsible. The distinction matters, because a fungicide does nothing to address the actual cause. Their activity window is fairly short. Nymphs emerge in late spring and feed heavily for about 3 to 4 weeks before maturing into adults, which makes early summer the period of greatest risk. After that window closes, damage typically stops for the season, even without any intervention. One detail that surprises a lot of gardeners once they know it. Because the feeding damage is cosmetic rather than structural, mature lavender usually tolerates it without any real setback. On younger plants, a soft bristle brush or a jet of water in the early morning, while the bugs are still sluggish from overnight cool temperatures, can physically remove them before they've done much feeding. Heavy chemical treatment is rarely warranted, particularly given how brief their active period is. Four-line plant bugs are a reminder that not every symptom on a leaf points to disease. And the final pest on this list creates a different kind of confusion, because it's the one most likely to be mistaken for no problem at all. Pest number 5, whiteflies. This last one is easy to miss for a very specific reason, because for most of the day, there's genuinely nothing to see. Whiteflies are small, moth-like insects, pale and almost translucent, that tend to rest quietly on the undersides of lavender leaves. A plant can look completely clean during a casual walk through the garden. It's only when a stem is brushed or disturbed that the truth becomes obvious. A small cloud of tiny white insects lifts off the foliage all at once, then quickly settles back down once the disturbance passes. Many gardeners see that moment, assume it was a one-time thing, and move on without a second thought. Like aphids, whiteflies feed on plant sap and produce honeydew as they do, which means the same telltale sign applies here too, a faint stickiness on the leaves, sometimes followed by sooty mold developing on the residue. In light numbers, whiteflies cause little more than that cosmetic issue. But because they reproduce quickly in warm weather, and because each disturbance only reveals the adults while the eggs and immature nymphs stay firmly attached to the leaf underside, a population can grow substantially between one glance and the next. Whiteflies favor warm, still conditions, and they tend to build up fastest on plants that are crowded together or lack airflow around the foliage. This is one of the clearest cases where garden layout directly affects pest pressure. Lavender space with enough room to breathe, in a spot with good air movement, tends to see far fewer whitefly problems than plants packed tightly against a wall or crowded by neighboring shrubs. Yellow sticky traps placed near affected plants are an effective, low-intervention way to monitor and reduce adult populations, since whiteflies are strongly drawn to the color. For heavier infestations, insecticidal soap applied to the leaf undersides works well, though as with the other pests on this list, timing it for early morning or evening protects pollinators visiting the flowers during the day. That completes all 5. But knowing what to look for is only half the picture. What matters just as much as how a gardener responds to what they find. None of these 5 pests are especially difficult to manage once they've actually been identified. What makes them worth knowing isn't how destructive any single one is. It's how differently each one behaves, and how often the real cause of a struggling lavender plant turns out to be hiding somewhere gardeners weren't thinking to check. Under a leaf, inside a bit of foam, behind a symptom that looks exactly like disease, but isn't. That's really the shift worth making. Not spraying at the first sign of bug, and not assuming every dull leaf means disaster, but slowing down enough to actually look. Turning leaves over occasionally, checking new growth in spring, noticing when something changes, and asking why before reaching for a solution. Lavender grown in full sun, well-drained soil, with enough space for air to move freely around it, is naturally more resistant to nearly everything covered here. Healthy growing conditions don't just prevent problems. They make the ones that do appear far easier to catch early, while they're still small and manageable. Most lavender pest issues, in the end, aren't emergencies. They're small signals, asking for a closer look rather than a quick fix. And a gardener who knows what to look for is already most of the way to solving the problem.